Hi everyone, my name is Wynn and I'm on the mental health team here at YouTube. I could not be more excited to be here today with this uber talented music artist 6LACK and trailblazing mental health professional Syreeta Butler, where we're going to discuss the destigmatization of mental health in the Black Plus community and how they are actually working together to integrate mental health into the culture of the music industry. This conversation is super relevant for the times because not only is May Mental Health Month in the US, which we actually observe globally here at Google, but this event is actually part of our racial equity commitments, part of which emphasize support for the mental health and well-being of our Black Plus Googler communities. And there are a number of people that I want to make sure to thank that helped get this event together. That is especially our benefits team, our Black Googler network, and my partners in planning, Imani, Kelly, and Farah. Thank you so much for your help organizing this. And now to our distinguished guest. As I mentioned, we have 6LACK on the line, and if you are not already familiar, I'm going to need you to get onto YouTube Music after this and look him up and get hip for me, because you should definitely already know. But just in case, 6LACK is a 3-time Grammy-nominated alternative R&B rapper, singer, songwriter. He's actually the #2 most streamed R&B artist. His debut project, Free 6LACK, went platinum. His sophomore album, East Atlanta Love Letter, peaked at #1 on the top R&B albums, and 6LACK was actually the most featured artist between 2019 and 2020 with over 30 features. That's a lot of features. And we also have the lovely Syreeta Butler, LMFT. She's a marriage and family therapist that's based in both Los Angeles, California, and Atlanta, Georgia. She received her undergraduate degrees, plural, from Cal State University, Northridge, and she received her graduate degree in counseling psychology with an emphasis in holistic psychology and medicine. And the woman just continues to amaze. She, in collaboration with Love Renaissance, the label that 6LACK is signed to, and Just Be Consulting, actually launched the first mental health and wellness department of any record label. So truly revolutionary people on the call right now. So welcome 6LACK and Syreeta. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here today. I want to make sure to ask, how are you both doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I had no idea that I was sitting next to someone with such amazing accolades. I feel like I need to get a little more dressed up.
I'm sure 6LACK feels the same.
I'm good. Yeah, no, the rundown was perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yay. Thank you both for being here. It is truly, truly an honor. And as we mentioned a little earlier, I am a little jealous of the weather that you all have over there because it's storming in Atlanta, but you all look great and excited for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, for sure. And to kick off, I'm going to warm you up a little bit. So the how are you was technically question 1, but I actually have a couple of lightning round questions that I'm going to start with 6LACK. You're going to just tell me what first comes to mind and answer as quickly as you can. So starting off with #1, are you ready? Please tell me your favorite restaurant in Atlanta.
American Deli.
Okay, that was real quick and easy. Okay. One of your recent hits was with Lil TJ, Calling My Phone. And you, as we mentioned earlier, have had a number of features and collaborations. But who would you ideally love to collaborate with that you haven't already?
Andre 3000.
Okay, wonderful answer. And then lastly, as we hopefully near the end of the tunnel with this COVID situation, what is your dream vacation spot?
Somewhere I haven't been yet. So, that's a hard one. Actually, right now it's pretty hard. Actually, I just want to go to Puerto Rico or Hawaii or Costa Rica. Costa Rica, I'm gonna go with that.
Okay, #1, Costa Rica. Perfect. Thank you very much, 6LACK. And Miss Syreeta, we have you next. Are you ready for your lightning round questions?
I am ready, Wynn.
Okay. You are such a distinguished mental health professional right now, but I'm curious, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Ooh, I wanted to be an accountant. And I thought I did it for like 3 weeks in college. And then math was involved, and that was the end of that.
This is not it. Okay, I'm on the same page as you there. Math, not super fun. Okay, since we're talking about the music industry here today, what is your favorite song?
Ooh, In a Sentimental Mood by Duke Ellington and John Coltrane.
Okay, love it, love it. And then lastly, I'm going to give you the same question that 6LACK had. Dream vacation spot.
Ooh, dream vacation spot is a hut in the middle of the ocean of the Maldives.
Beautiful. Okay, so when y'all go, we'll be on the lookout on IG for those photos in Puerto Rico and in the Maldives.
Or
Perfect.
Costa Rica.
Or Costa Rica. Sorry, that's
Mhm.
right. All right. So thank you both for the warm-up questions. We're going to get into the conversation a little bit more now. We have a couple questions for Black, then we're going to go to Syreeta and alternate a bit. And in the meantime, for our audience here today, there is a chat box that y'all can enter in any live questions you have that we'll cover at the end. Okay, so yes, live questions. Be ready for those. So starting with you, Black. You are known as someone who highly values privacy, and this topic of mental health is something that is super personal. So we're curious, what made you decide to use your large platform to advocate for something that is so personal?
I think that kind of keeping everything parallel with my life and realizing I was at a point where I couldn't really like compress or skip over or like hide the work that I needed to do. So when I needed to do it in my real life, it just applied to my music too. I think I've always kind of lined them up together. So whatever I'm going through in life is whatever I'm putting in music and whatever I'm putting forward in the music industry. So, I went from being vocal about it in a compressed way to just more vocal about it in an open way, the same way that I've just had to exercise it in life.
I love that. It's definitely something that's conducive to clarity. It sounds like alignment and just being true to yourself, essentially. I love how simple the answer was for you. Continuing on, was there a moment specifically that made you want to become more intentional about your mental health?
Yeah, COVID, obviously. I think I got dragged through the year and in the best way, it was a lot of lessons to learn last year. It was a lot of time to spend with myself, a lot of things to look at in regards to just like traits or things I wanted to be better at as far as routine. And I think after I had tried to take on so much of it on my own in the same exact way that I've always done it, I had reached the middle of the year where I was just like, I'm burnt out and I have to figure out a new way to like clear up the things in my life. And the new way was just talking to somebody on the outside.
Beautiful. All right. And then if for folks who don't know, we see his little tag name under there so that you know stylized. His name is 6LACK. All right. And the 6 actually has a lot of significance, but part of that includes where you're from in Atlanta. So with Atlanta clearly being an important part of your identity, could you speak to a little bit more about how the city, the culture of Atlanta, and where you grew up influenced your mental health?
Yeah, Atlanta gave me a lot of like what to do and also a lot of what not to do. I think growing up in different neighborhoods, I was exposed to just like a lot of different things as far as range and people and attitudes and setting and where to put myself, where not to put myself. So I grew up in enough of like a different setting, like every couple of years, to where I was just picking up things as I went, and I would go from maybe a neighborhood that wasn't the best neighborhood to a neighborhood that offered me just like a completely different sense of like freedom and space and opportunity. And I would just carry what I learned from that neighborhood to the next one, and so on, and school and stuff too. So, um, yeah, Atlanta is a good mix, and a good mix of just like hard lessons and responsibility and space whenever you need space and community in general. So yeah, I grew up around a lot of different kinds of things that just helped shape me.
Awesome. So it definitely sounds like it made you adaptable, and we definitely appreciate you as a city repping for us and coming back, even though you left us for the nice weather over there at the moment. And then as you kind of transitioned throughout your life from being this music artist, and as you mentioned, even towards the beginning, I think a lot of what caused people to gravitate towards your music was that rawness, was that emotional openness. But I'm curious, once you decided to kind of make yourself this mental health advocate and say like, hey, this is something that I'm standing up for, did you have to navigate any level of stigma as part of that decision?
No, I think that is something easy like to break. I've been doing something else for so long that I could never not acknowledge that this is just the next easiest thing. Just like I could be stubborn, I could downplay it, I could act like tough or whatever about it, but that's the hard way of really just acknowledging what it is. Like I have been able to do years worth of work in months, and that's what I've kind of been pushing to all my friends. I'm like, all you got to do, have a conversation, address it, just clear it up, acknowledge it, feel something about it, say something about it, and the rest will take care of itself.
Nice and succinct. I love that. I think a lot of people on the call right now wish that everyone's approach to this was as simple as you make it, because the way that you have it lined up, it's like, okay, why do we even have to have an hour-long call about it? So
I think that I would like see myself in a lot of situations where I psych myself out by like creating all these rules or guidelines or expectations when I really just like she would say something simple to me and like in the realm of just like, no, you don't. And I would be like, you actually right. Like I actually don't have to think that way or be that way or put myself in some corner of feeling like consequences or extra pressure. Like I just gotta be. That's all.
I love that. And since you pointed to Syreeta there and her role in helping you kind of navigate those questions that maybe you posed to yourself or that you were getting from others, I want to pivot to you, Syreeta, especially for folks who maybe didn't have you by their side as Black did as they're trying to go through this mental health journey and process. What strategies do you have for folks who are trying to move past any stigma that they're encountering from their community, their workplace, wherever it might be?
I think sometimes you just have to clear the noise. Really just clearing out the noise, because stigma comes about from noise. It's other people's chatters, other people's thoughts. And sometimes we adopt that for ourselves and make that our own truth. But if we're able just to say, you know what, I want to show up and I want to be the best version of myself, and the ways in which I've gone about it have been great and it's gotten me to this point, and now I just want to try something else. I think people, as people should, go into therapy knowing that it is a relationship. However, you get to choose that relationship just like you get to choose your significant other. And there's very few people, at least in this time, that have chosen a partner to be in relationship with and have gotten it right or perfect the first time. Like, it takes work. So it's important to not let that be a deterrent, as well as that if you put yourself out there with a therapist and it doesn't seem like a great fit, you can always move to someone else. And I think that's a part that people get really stuck on, is that I have to stick with this person or I have to do it this way. And like I say to all of my clients, this process and this part of the journey is exactly the way you want it to be. You make the rules.
Absolutely. And in order to figure out what you want that journey to look like, you have to clear the chatter, like you mentioned earlier. And just kind of drawing off of the topic of finding a mental health professional that kind of suits your needs. I know you emphasized to our audience that you can kind of shop around and almost date around if you need to find the right fit. But do you have any off the top of your head recommendations of things that people should look for from the beginning when maybe they're even scoping out for someone that could potentially be a good fit?
Well, yes, but I think I like it to go, maybe we take a couple steps back, which is when you are making the decision that therapy in this part of your life is the thing that you want to try, really being honest with yourself. So before you even go out looking for someone else, have that real conversation with yourself and be transparent with yourself about what it is you're looking for. What are your needs at this stage in your life? What are the things that you really, really want to work on? Yes, as a therapist, I can do that with you, but I think it's more valuable when you come in knowing what you want, or at least some version of what you want, and you've been honest with yourself. The hardest thing in the world is for myself or any other therapist having to attempt to convince a person that therapy is a good spot for them. Like, you can't do this work. I tell people in the initial interview or the initial session is that therapy is probably one of the hardest things that you will do next to child rearing. And so going into it with that mindset makes it a little bit more serious. And then you don't waste anyone else, you don't waste your time or my time, and you don't waste your money and my time. So I'd prefer that you come with some level of what you know, but also knowing that there's resources out there to give you a bit of a framework, like Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Girls, the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation has. So there's, I think, he's even Therapy for Black Men. So these are great resources that people can go to and read people's bios. You don't have to call up people. You can just read their bios and see if there's things that stand out to you, a certain modality, a certain way that a person creates their little blurb. You know, let your spirit and let your energetic space take lead as well.
I love that. And essentially what you're saying is we got to do some of the work first. We can't just kind of show up there, sit down, and then, press the magic button, essentially. So definitely noted.
Please.
Beautiful. Okay, so moving to our next question here, I'm going to go back to Black. And Black, I'm curious, you've been in the music game for a while now, so you might have to draw from your previous experience a little bit more, dig a little deeper for it. But in terms of your mental health experience, I know you said more recently is when you started paying really keen attention to it. But do you find that your mental health experience has been a lot different now that you're a public figure versus when you weren't as much so in the spotlight?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it went from 0 to 100. Whatever I was kind of dealing with on my own before everything, initially felt like it just amplified, and that I didn't really have much of a say so about like how fast it was moving or where I wanted to be or how I wanted to spend my time. It was almost like, okay, I started something and it's starting to build momentum. And I kind of jumped into a mode of just like, all right, we'll just do it. And I would see myself, in moments and for sure grateful and celebrating, but I would always be looking to the next thing. I would be like, okay, well now that I did that, and I have to do this, and now that I did that, I have to do this. And I felt like that was kind of tumbling out of control for a minute because you can convince yourself when you're doing like five things right that you're doing everything right. And I for sure was just like, I'm on task because I did this and this and this, and if I wasn't, then these things wouldn't be getting done. And the whole time I was just like putting other work to the side, personal work, spiritual work to the side. And yeah, I think that the volume of people has always been something that I think about. I don't think that it's like an unbearable thing or something I can't handle, but I do think that my process had to change in order for me to like really do it.
And then can you speak a little bit more to how you drew those boundaries? Because it sounds like you said, you were on a roll and it wasn't just the external factors and people around you, but also your personal drive and ambition, trying to be your best and get better each day. So how did you kind of put the brakes on a little bit so that you could find that clarity for yourself?
One, I just got back into my routine. I had realized that I was trying to look for inspiration in music and music only, and I had to remember to stimulate myself in other ways and set like routines for myself. So waking up at a certain time, doing a certain thing for my body, whether it's stretching or eating something healthy, making sure I have something to read so that I can have something to pull from when I do get back to music, and making sure that I practice that every single day because the second I don't or I miss one or I like lazily try and like jump right into my day or into my phone or into my music, it doesn't really move as smooth as I want it to move. So really doing those things like every single day. And then as far as like family and friends, being more vocal about like what I expect, what I tolerate, what I won't tolerate, what I'll help with, what I won't help with, what's your problem, what's my problem, and taking some of that pressure off of myself because for a while I think I was managing a bunch of different people's situations, and mine just obviously kept getting pushed to the side because I just felt so just attentive to everybody else's stuff. So drawing those lines and letting people know that I actually need to be focused on myself because if the ship stops over here, it stops for everybody. So drawing that line with family and friends and communicating more with the people that I work with, just making sure I have conversations with them so that we don't ever get in spaces where we're working like in a broken off kind of way because of our own personal things. And just remembering that we got here by being like this, so we have to continue to grow and talk more and be like this.
Love it. Routine, boundaries, and communication, and then making sure that you don't give from an empty cup is what it kind of sounds like, if I were to summarize it.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. I feel like I could ask so many more questions. I'm trying. And I feel like I could ask more questions, especially a little bit more about how you establish your routine and things like that. But we'll make sure that there's time for that at the end, especially if someone else in the audience wants to ask. So thank you for that insight into your process, Black. And Syreeta, kind of similar to us talking about the nuances of the music industry and how that changed Black's experience with his mental health. As a professional, I know that you have so much experience in the space, not only through your private practice, but you did community mental health, and now you're trailblazing in the music industry. So can you speak a little bit more to how record labels and the music industry as a whole has unique considerations in terms of how you approach mental health and just like your consultations relative to traditional practices or community mental health?
Well, I think my experience in community mental health and private practice have given all the information and all the groundwork for what I'm doing here with the music industry. But there's a part of me that kind of feels like it's not as different as people may think, because I think that's one of the parts of this industry or this world that becomes a little more toxic is when there's so much separation, or when people feel like, oh, it's them and they have a particular set of needs and everyone else has a particular set of needs. So what I'm finding through the research is that we are kind of all the same across the board, no matter what the socioeconomic, no matter what the class, no matter what, we at the core, people just want to know that they're okay. People just want to know that they're loved, and people just want to love. So that I think is a interesting distinction, which I wasn't actually. It surprised me. I thought there was going to be a complete difference and a complete shift to what the music industry needed, as opposed to what I'd been doing in community mental health. There are certain things, in getting back to your point, there are particular things like fame that tend to be a little bit more apparent in the music industry. I think also access is a thing that is very specific to the not just music but the entertainment industry as a whole. That but what I do find is that the anything that you've come in with, or whatever your thing was before you got money, is going to be amplified when you get money.
Mm.
So that's something that I think we take into consideration. So whatever, that's why I really enjoy working with artists or executives early in their career, because it allows them to heal. And by the time they have success or accolades or whatever, that they have a really strong foundation, and they already have a certain level or a certain skill set, and emotional intelligence, if you will, that they're able to rely on when it gets really stressful or intense in their life. I don't think I answered the question, so maybe you can ask it again.
No, you absolutely answered the question, especially touching on the fame aspect, the access aspect, as well as just, I love that you just emphasize that there is a commonality across the music industry and just anyone else who's not in the music industry but wants to take care of their mental health, because this is probably why Love Renaissance has the first ever mental health and wellness department versus any other record label, because folks thought, like, if this is our industry, then there's a line that we draw and we don't necessarily look at this mental health and well-being aspect. But like you said, when folks have this platform that amplifies their message and the message is coming from a healing space, this is what I mentioned to Syreeta, is what I think is so beautiful about your work, because your message really does reach so many people. Your work, Black, really helps drive the culture. So when it comes from a space of healing, like, you can't quantify the impact that it's going to have on people in a really positive way. So you definitely answered the question.
Perfect.
Thank you both. And then Black, you've mentioned a couple of things right now, and this is actually for both of you, but starting with Black so Syreeta can get a little break. But you mentioned that routine is definitely a resource for you, eating well and exercise. Are there any other resources and tools that you would say have been particularly helpful in your mental health experience?
For sure, getting back into reading. I think last year one of my favorite books was The Power of Kabbalah. And it kind of it's the concepts always end up being like super how do you say it? Just easy to understand and so right next to you that when you read them, it's like, oh yeah, like I could have literally been doing it this way the whole entire time. Reading for sure. I got into juicing. I felt really good about juicing
Nice.
because being in LA, all the juices out there are like $10. So I was like, how do I one, save money and two, do something for myself that just feels good? Like I feel a lot better when I made something, and it's actually something that's healthy for me. So changing my diet a lot. I think Atlanta. A lot of the what not to do's in regards to food. We ate crazy growing up, so I have tried to tame that and to just be a little bit more responsible because just my voice and everything else is just a little bit different now. Like I can't treat it the same way that I treated it growing up. And that was another thing too. Like I went through a lot of voice things during COVID, which was weird for me because I wasn't on tour. So I was getting really down about it. I'm like, how could I be even experiencing like any vocal problems right now while I'm not even working my voice right now? What is that a sign of? And for me personally, it was a sign of being a horrible communicator. It was like when I'm not doing good in that realm, I suffer in the form of my voice. So
Mm.
it's throat chakra. I'm just like it's blocked. I remember I did something in Mexico where I had a ceremony, and the lady had kind of just like focused on this area for a second and just told me to breathe. And when we got right there, out of everywhere else on my body, I literally started coughing because it just felt so tense and so blocked up. So um, being open to different things, reading, um, doing things in regards to just like cooking and juicing for myself, and what else has been going on? I just talk to her a lot, honestly. Like I talk to her a lot. Like this has been the most active part of my life so far. Like I think I went through 20 years of being kinda on autopilot and doing things just in a way that like it was efficient for me, but it wasn't as efficient as it could be. So I'm not sure if I answered everything in that
Yeah,
question.
no, you gave us a lot of gems, and towards the end, it was efficient for you to get stuff done, but it didn't sound like it was necessarily nourishing your spirit and your soul. So it seems like you kind of came back to that, and maybe that was one small silver lining of COVID is maybe you had more time to do the juicing and be more aware of what was going on throughout your body, especially your throat.
To really, really look at yourself. I think that like to be grateful is one thing. Like you can say it all day and you can be surface level grateful for whatever is around you, but to really wake up every day and practice it is a completely different thing. Like I had to tell myself and look at myself and just be like, you are not practicing as much as you can practice. Like you learned a certain amount to get here, and once you got here, you kind of stopped and focused on music and you focused on like whatever you felt like was your responsibility. So now I'm getting back to me, and that's been the key.
Gratitude as a practice, y'all. That was a gem right there, because that really resonated with me, because I feel like people talk about gratitude in terms of a verbal expression, in terms of writing stuff down and it'll make you feel better, but what does it look like to actually practice that gratitude? And part of it sounds like honoring yourself as a person so that you can interact with others around you accordingly.
Which isn't easy. I think we think gratitude as something that looks cute. Gratitude is cute, but when you actually are practicing gratitude, there's all type of things that come up that may be a part of your shadow, and really taking a look at, am I being transparent in my gratefulness? And sometimes you aren't, and you got to step your game up.
Thank you.
So I think it's important for that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And shadow work, that's something that I should probably look a little bit more into. I hear that it's key, but maybe that can also be in part of our questions. And Black, I'm also curious from the juicing perspective, it sounds like we do a little bit more of that and maybe a little less American Deli and Waffle House, which is, what Atlanta is known for. Just real quick, do you have a favorite juice recipe or something that's go-to for you?
Well, first, watermelon juice in general helped save my life on the last tour I was on. I was dealing with a lot of voice things on that tour too, so I had to cut out like all fake sugary processed types of things. Watermelon juice helped me like reset my palate. It helped like cool anytime I would have like I randomly got reflux out the blue. Watermelon juice will help with that. And other than that, green apples, celery, kale, anything green with some green apples in it.
Very nice. And I know people might be like, well, why are they talking about juices when we're supposed to be talking about mental health? But it's all interconnected, y'all,
It makes
okay?
me feel good. It makes me feel a
It's
lot.
It's a holistic
exactly,
approach to wellness. And I think
exactly.
we think that it's a one-stop shop or it's a way of, and it isn't. It truly, truly isn't. It encompasses so many different things, and the larger your toolbox, and the more that you can pull from, the more grounded and whole that you can be. So,
Yeah.
juicing is very much a part of.
Yeah, you can't say that you want to be better and progressively eat worse. They
Yes,
don't go together.
yes,
Absolutely. We got to
yes.
connect all the dots. And there are folks out here who are juicing and vegan and eating all the right things, but then not talking to anyone or being honest with themselves. So it works the other way around too.
Absolutely, yep. A holistic approach. That's what
Yes.
we're all about.
Exactly. So we've touched on a lot of things so far, a lot of great things. And we talked a little bit about relationships and the people around us. So I kind of want to hone in on that aspect, specifically about community. So could you both, whoever wants to go first is fine, but could you both speak a little bit to what community means to you and your mental health?
Um, this is in part of the holistic and transparency. This has been probably my hardest space to conquer because contrary to many people's belief, I don't really. Up until recently, in like the last year, I'm not the hugest fan of people. I deal with people, like I acknowledge that people are important, but I was like, people are kind of trash sometimes too. So understanding that that was coming from my own trauma and being disappointed in my own life growing up, that I kind of gave up on people. I've had to do the work to reintroduce myself to community, and now I am finding that it's, which is something, and this is going to be a little insight to your therapist. We don't get it right all the time. We can say a lot of stuff, and we can support you in being the best version of yourself, but it's just like that hairstylist whose hair is always crazy. We don't get it right. We don't always do the work um, that we are supporting others. And I think that people think that there's a bit of perfection with your therapist, but we are human too. And that's been important for me to acknowledge. But going back to your question, it's been healing my own wounds that has allowed me to be open to having community in my life, and opening myself up to a group of people that I love dearly and that support me in all of my endeavors. And it's not a big group of people because I still have a tinge of people are still trash. So it's like maybe 5 or 6 people. And I think as you get older, your world or your friendship circles do tend to get smaller. And I'm at that place in my life. But the people that I have hold me accountable. They love me unconditionally, but they also don't allow me to sell myself short. So you can't, and this is another thing I think in particular with the music business is, or just entertainment, is that as your status grows, people forget that you need authentic people around you. People tend to be inclined to get yes people around them, and people that stroke their ego and people that make them feel good. And it's been really important for me in the work that I'm doing in the music industry to be as real, no matter if you have sold, you know, a billion copies of whatever, or if you are in the mailroom of the label. you are the same, and you will be treated. You can get this smoke just the same, no matter what part of, no matter from the president to the mail person, or so everyone gets smoke. And I think it's important because that also helps people understand that you aren't above anyone else. So that's a part of the community, at least how I want to show up as a community member to people that I'm interacting with. Another
Thank
long-winded answer. My apologies.
No, no, and just long and filled with gems. So we definitely appreciate it. You touched on a lot there as well, from one, pushing back on your therapist, and not even necessarily pushing back, but understanding that they are sharing what they can based off of what they understand about you, and you are the only one who lives that experience. So this is almost me talking to myself and thinking about my therapist, but knowing that sometimes I take what I need and that will serve me. And then other things, like I know for myself, is that's part of her perspective, and I need to kind of take what is valuable and take it with a grain of salt, essentially. And then also that emphasis on community and working through that and understanding the value of it, even when you don't really want to. Because even for me in this COVID situation where you kind of get used to being an introvert, enjoy time by yourself, you're like, now I have to interact with others, then it can be a little bit iffy at first, but you speaking to the importance of that and building that and how it can benefit you despite that initial discomfort and not really wanting to at first, I think is really essential. So thank you for those gems, Syreeta. And Black, would love to hear your perspective on community and what that means to your mental health too.
Yeah, I think it's really synonymous to her answer. I think that for me, it's just always been about being the biggest version of myself, and being the biggest version of myself makes it so that the people around me are either doing the same thing or canceling themselves out. So it's like people will either, be working towards the same ultimate feeling or goal, or people will show that they're not equipped or not ready or not really supposed to be around. And as long as I'm being the biggest version of myself, I think that I've continued to just like move the pieces of my life and move people around, and not take it personal or not, feel bad about it. I'm doing what's necessary for me to feel like I'm just reaching where I need to go. And then actually just like being a better listener. I think that that's been a thing that I've had to practice more. It's just like utilizing the community that I built, and looking at it in a way that like is super beneficial and super helpful to me, because I had gotten to a space where I was just looking at myself like, there's not much that anybody can do or say for me because I'm the person that everybody comes to. So
Mm.
kind of getting myself out of that mind state and realizing that I do have tools and people around that can check me, that can hold me accountable, that can give me advice, that can come to me if they need advice. And that way, like, the system just feels like it's even all around.
Absolutely. And it starts with that clarity of purpose. And I think it's also important to emphasize that while you say that you're focusing on where you want to be and what that vision looks like, part of it includes how you want to impact other people and use your platform for better. So it's not like Black's just out here being selfish and saying he wants this, that, and the other. This is Black working towards a purpose that will inevitably positively benefit the culture as well.
I'm being positively selfish, and you should be too.
Yes.
Love it. And then Black, just continuing off of kind of your mindset and your approach to things and how that helps you keep the right people around, even if that doesn't mean that you have all yes people, as Syreeta mentioned. We have to have people who constructively give us pushback sometimes. But you also mentioned a number of times this desire to get better constantly. So what is the next step that you think is for you in terms of your mental health story to get better? What's that next step?
I've been kind of taking things like according to like the situations or relationships or tasks that I've kind of left in my life. I've been just kind of making a list every time I do something. I'm like, all right, well, now that that's done, I have this other thing that's been in the back of my head for like 3 months or 3 years or whatever, and I'm about to have that conversation. So there was like a time period where I was talking to her every week, and I think like every week I came back, I had something new that I had did. I was like, okay, I had this convo, and now next week I'm about to have this convo, and I was moving in that kind of way. I think that right now it's kind of settling a little bit. I'm trying to. I'm pretty sure there's something that I'm forgetting right now.
We don't have to talk about it here.
Yeah. But that's how I've been like kind of marking my journey with her. I've just been looking at the relationships in my life and looking at the traits of myself that I want to get better at, or the things that I'm actually good at that I need to take less pressure off of. And I have just been crossing things off one by one. So I think I'm going to continue to just like step back and look at things and then jump in and do what I need to do.
Yes, and I know you mentioned talking to Syreeta a little bit more about this, but it also sounds to me like you've made a lot of progress over time, have already had a lot of success personally. So even if it's not a next step that you're looking at, hopefully you're also taking the time to pause and celebrate all of the progress that you've made so far. And I'm sure Syreeta has
Say it
told you
again,
this too.
Lynn. Say
Lots
it
of thank
again.
yous there. Yes. So make sure that you're both celebrating yourselves because you're doing amazing work. And sometimes it's not about the next thing, it's about celebrating where you are now. So thank you for sharing that. And I have one more question before we transition to the Q&A. And that is, both of you, I feel like, are very visionary people. So I would love to hear from each of you, what is the long-term impact that you both want to have within the mental health space?
I can go. Um, First thing that came to mind, if I'm being completely transparent with you and the audience, is global domination. I want mental health to be a priority in the entertainment industry in all facets, for executives, for staff, and for artists. I think it is time for us to really pay attention to how we can be kinder to each other and still make money. I think that there has been a huge emphasis on money as the driving force and the influence for such a long time. And for what Just Be Consulting is doing, it's important for us to hold both because both are important. So my long-term goal is for the company to be the premier consulting group for all of entertainment, music and production, and TV and film. To have an on-site therapist for every record label, production studio, TV and film studio, whatever. Um, I would also like there to be legislation passed that makes it mandatory for that to happen, because I think it's time. It's time for we in the entertainment industry have lost so many people and so many beautiful spirits and so many creative people, not just artists, but also executives. And it doesn't have to be that way. I'm convinced. I know in my heart of hearts, it does not have to. We don't have to lose another artist to a drug overdose or to suicide or to getting shot in front of a club or to whatever. We don't have to, that just is negligent. And so paying attention to how we can be of support and changing the and shifting the paradigm in that is Just B's goal. So I could go on for a lot longer in advocating for that, but I will stop now because my voice will go up. I'll probably get louder and
It's
yeah,
passion. We love it.
it's passion. It is passion. So yeah, I'll stop now.
Thank you, Syreeta. And I almost wish we had started with that because it's so important for people to hear that purpose. And when I hear you say global domination, I know it's not an understatement because this industry, the entertainment industry, the music industry, maybe next to policy, is such a strong force in impacting how people are. So if y'all could really like take a second and imagine what the world would look like if every person who had influence was doing that influencing from a place of healing, what would this space look like versus what it is now? So global domination is not an understatement, is what I want to emphasize there. And Black, would love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I think that my goal really is just like, since I have the platform and since I am visible, to just continue to grow in front of people in the most like transparent way that I can. I would love for all of my friends and the people in my community to take some form of therapy or get into it at some point, so that we all can just learn how to communicate better with each other. As far as artists, there are a few friends in the music industry that I've kind of suggested and kind of nudge people towards, like, even if it's Sarita, if it's not Sarita, I'm just like, you need to get into something because I know too many people who have experienced just too many wild things within the industry, within the streets. So to just like continue to walk people into situations that I just had to throw myself into. I'm like, you don't have to get to a really bad point, like she said, to have to finally go into therapy. Like if there's somebody to bridge it or to have a conversation with you or to talk about how much it's helped them, then I think my job is to just continue to speak about it and continue to walk my friends and family into it and continue to be as vulnerable as I can be and as honest as I can be so that other people just get the wind and do the same thing. Like that's really all I want to do.
Beautiful. And I love that essentially part of this is just you being yourself, essentially being true to yourself. As we mentioned earlier, when people are trying to have an impact on the world, I feel like a lot of times people separate that impact from who they need to be. It's this separate persona and it's just like this projection as opposed to what you're saying right now, which is just being true to yourself and bringing other people in along with that is what's going to draw that influence. So thank you both so much for answering these questions. I'm going to go ahead and pivot to the community and see what questions that we have now. I think they might pop up on the screen. All right, so first one we have up here from Keyshawn. This is an amazing person, just for context. I know them personally. And he asked, how can we work as a community to help reduce the stigma of Black men seeking mental health and emotional support? Either or both.
I think that it's just a conversation the same way that like things have gotten you grow up a certain kind of way and you hear certain things like you have to be strong and you have to be tough and a lot of things were instilled in me to where now I know that the conversation is just saying the opposite. Like if I'm in a room with my friends and I haven't seen them in months, the first thing that I'm going to do is talk about how cool and how fun and how revealing and how honest of like the conversations that I have are. And for the most part, when I'm having that conversation with everybody else, I can see the idea or the spark of like somebody else wanting to get into it or wanting to have the same conversation. So if they can spread a rumor about it not being a great thing or a beneficial thing or a manly or masculine thing, then I think that we can spread the rumor about it actually being the best thing.
Yes, the counter influence, breaking down the stigma. Wonderful. Sarita, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think movements start with one person, and it's a ripple effect. And if Black men can be bold in being the first and spreading that message, I mean, already unstoppable. And so, what would it be like just to go out on the limb and throw caution to the wind and be that first person? Because that's what's courageous. We all talk about people who will jump on a bandwagon, and we have bandwagons for a whole lot of other things. But this bandwagon can really start with one Black man telling another Black man, who then tells another Black man, and so on and so on and so on. So I would say to Keyshawn, be the change in which you what is it be the change you wish to see in others.
Something
So
like that.
something like that. I don't think
Somewhere
somewhere
in
in
that
that realm.
realm.
So do that. Don't wait for another Black man to show you the way.
And also, I would say that forming circles of some kind is important for us because we've been able to see women do it in so many different spaces. They've been ahead of the game with sister circles and talking and linking up for movie night and just existing in a space to where they can always be honest and vulnerable with each other. So I think that men have to just be open to doing that a lot more, like getting in spaces with people that you can learn from that aren't just yes people, or people that aren't going to feed you in some kind of way. So more circles.
Yes, thank you both for that. And it just reminded me something that y'all both spoke to is just the influentialness of the Black community, men and women. And the same way that there's like a phrase going around now, Atlanta influences everything. But when we look at Black people and Black culture, this is what other people start to emulate now. So if, again, we're trendsetters in this way, then who knows what the world would look like. So
Oh,
thank you both.
we know what the world will look like.
Right.
We absolutely know what the world will look like. It'll be dope.
Exactly. It would be. It would be. So we're trying to make that come to fruition even more.
Yeah.
Thank you both. So our next question, I think we can go ahead and pull that up, is from Lizzie. Hi, thanks so much for doing this. Black, I am a huge fan. Did you find it difficult to draw boundaries with your friends and family when trying to focus on yourself and your personal well-being?
Um, I think it was difficult in a sense to where like I was the only person resisting. Like it wasn't a difficult thing to do. Once I actually had the conversations, I think that the resistance was the most difficult part. Like me pulling myself out of the opposite routine of just like not drawing boundaries and not really having conversations and expecting things to like figure itself out or for people to just like understand me and do the right thing. Like instead of operating in a space to where I was letting my expectations run the show, I just had to actually get active about it. So the most difficult part was definitely just like getting rid of that resistance with myself. Like I had to literally tell myself day after day after day, like you have to either stop or you have to do or you have to talk or you need to pick up the phone or you need to meet up. Whatever you got to do, like you actually need to do it instead of thinking about it all the time.
Be action oriented and get out of your own way.
Absolutely.
100. Okay, so we have another question. This is from Karthik. For Black, do you have any advice for artists who have trouble opening up about personal content in songwriting? I have a couple of friends who have trouble with this. They're just perfectionists. He's a huge fan of your work, by the way. Free is one of his favorite songs of all time.
Um, my advice for anybody having trouble opening up, I think that the more that you focus on doing it in your real life, the easier it is to put it in your music. I don't think that you can write it out every time. I don't think that you can just like put it in the form of a song without actually, coming to yourself and being able to acknowledge what it is, what the source is, how to fix it if you want to fix it, how long it might take. Like you have to really break certain things down with yourself to be able to even get it to music form. So I don't think that that's something that you can jump to because I and sometimes like you might be able to squeeze one out or make it work, but I don't think that that is the most efficient way to do it. I think that I can relate to doing it that way initially, and I reached a part in my life where
Mhm.
I just hit a wall, and I was like, actually, this trick just does not work anymore. And
It's
why
not.
would I? Yeah, and why would I even like want to do this trick? Like, why wouldn't I want to do it the other way, which is living it and handling it, and then coming back to write about it in hindsight versus trying to like push through a moment and not actually tend to the shit I need to tend to. Can I curse on here?
It's okay. We got editors. But starting at the source and making sure that you do that before you try to push anything out, because sustainability is also part of it, right? You don't want to be a one-hit wonder and have that one song where you were vulnerable. You want to actually be able to have
Yeah,
something that has longevity.
She's speaking to your soul
absolutely,
right now.
absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you both. I think we might have one more question that we can fit in. If maybe two, they'll let me know. So Black, another fan of yours. You are literally one of my favorite artists in the world. Thank you so much for speaking on mental health. What is your favorite song that you have wrote?
Mm, I would say one of my favorites is probably "Free." The last person said that that was their favorite song. "Free" was something that I like. It was a song that I had like the beat, and I didn't have a song to it for a long time. I just kind of kept listening to it, and I didn't really hear or feel the words. And then I went through a very special journey, trip, experience, and I came out of it, and I had just like learned so much about myself. And by the time I had pressed play on that beat, all the words ended up coming to me, and the song was really just about like being as free as I can be in every single way, like musically, in my personal life, in my relationships, like just breaking all the stigma, breaking all of the attachments, breaking as much as I could break to really be free.
Mm. And we called this conversation Freedom and Mental Health in Music. So I love that we kind of closed the loop on that a little bit. And Syreeta, I saw you smile real big. Is there any additional context you want to add as he was telling that story? Okay, that's for a different conversation. Okay, just wanted to make sure. I personally really like Seasons is one of my favorite songs of yours. It's a beautiful song, and it's perfect timing for that as well. We actually have time for 2 more questions, I think. So let's go ahead and pull that one up. So this is from Raul. Black, it is exciting to see you, or it was exciting to see you at Life is Beautiful. I'm sorry. He's excited to see you at Life is Beautiful. How do you overcome something like writer's block when you are feeling uninspired?
By honestly reminding yourself that writer's block doesn't even have to be a thing. Just get it out. Like even if it's not your most favorite song or your most favorite idea, just get it out. It might live to be something later on, it might not, and you can just move on to the next thing. So I think that anytime you feel like you have a block, one thing that you can do is just remind yourself that that song is just that song. Or you could take a break and not put so much pressure to feel like you have to do something in a moment. Like go do something else, and then writer's block might vanish.
And I also think, in terms of writer's block, people are really hard on themselves. Artists are so hard on themselves. And I know there's a lot of entities that make that uh, a thing. However, perfectionism is a huge killer of the spirit of inspiration, and understanding that we are not meant to be perfect. That I have found in supporting artists is a big thing for them. It's like, well, it has to be perfect, or, this person or my label are coming down on me, or whatever it is. And it's like, that's going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, the chatter and the noise. I think when we start to let other people and other people's anxieties, honestly, weigh on ourselves or on the artist, that is a surefire way to have writer's block, because it's the weight of the world um, that the brain holds on to, and it doesn't allow for anything to pass through. So I just felt like it was important to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just freeing yourself from that, remembering that you have choice and you have options in a situation where you might feel stuck. Very nice. And I think we have one more.
3 minutes. Let's do it.
Yeah, we got this. So from Caleb to Black, first, huge fan of your work. I'm not going to be able to pronounce this. Spillagen specifically saved me last year. My question, as a perfectionist, Syreeta, thank you. How do you balance continually working on yourself versus giving yourself grace?
I Sometimes it's a tougher trick than others. Other times, I think, like she was saying, that I really had to stop allowing other things to make me second guess about myself. It's just like I didn't um, get to where I was by like taking so many other things into consideration. It was really just me in my room, and it was really just me and my pen, and it was really just me and my experiences. So I think that the balance is something that I've been working on, like even to this day. I don't think that it's like a quick fix or something that you get right every single time. But I think that you have to be able to look at yourself and say, you know, take some of that unnecessary pressure off of yourself, take some of the expectation off, stop thinking about what the result is going to be. Like just start focusing on what you're doing right now, and really give yourself an opportunity to just be you. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, I think it's a everyday type of thing, and it's a practice type of situation. So as long as you keep practicing it, you get better at it.
Yeah, and it sounds like sometimes working on yourself, especially as a perfectionist, means you have to give yourself grace. That's part of the process of working on yourself. So
That's,
we are.
sorry, that's why they call it a practice. It's not they call it an expert. It's a practice for a reason, because it's always evolving. This is life is a marathon if you're lucky enough to do it in that way. It's not a sprint. So that's where grace comes in, because grace is sustainability. Grace allows you to continue to be able to move and grow and work or whatever. So grace is just another word for sustainability, which is
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you both so much. We are right at time. I feel like there were so many gems that we squeezed into this 1 hour. And I just want to thank you both so much for being here. Hopefully I'm able to run into you two at some point in Atlanta. If not, I'm more than happy to watch the work that you're doing from afar. And I just really want to emphasize how amazing the work that you're doing is, because again, music is driving the culture. Mental health is so integral for all of us, even just as individuals, but also as communities. So the fact that you both are bringing these two things together is incredibly beautiful, inspiring, and appreciated. So I want to make sure to emphasize that appreciation aspect. Excuse my dog. But thank you so much again for being here today. It was a pleasure speaking to you both.
Thank you so much, Gwen.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.